Hey, Kev, how are we, mate?
Uh, Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Uh, 8 o'clock here on Monday night, so it looks like it's afternoon your time there.
Yeah, and it's nice and sunny as well, mate. What's it like there? Is
It's
the
beautiful.
old winter Narnia crept in yet?
No, no, it hasn't crept in. It does get chilly in the mornings, but we're still wearing shorts here. It's the next 10 days are perfect, like just absolute perfection. If you were to draw up the perfect day, you get 10 of them in a row. So I'm happy about that.
Plenty of golf coming up then, yeah.
Absolutely, you know it.
All right, mate. What I thought I'd do is I'd like to kind of we'll open up. We'll have a little bit of chat about yourselves. I think our kind of even our meetup's quite interesting, isn't it? I always say that where we met up was effectively my honeymoon, but was my I call it my best lads holiday ever, which which is one of the reasons why kind of the love and relationships pillar so poignant for me because I had no idea. I was more interested in hanging around with you, drinking and playing volleyball than I was in my then wife, you know?
Yeah, well, it was a good time, and they say everything happens for a reason, and we were meant to be at that resort at that particular time, and I agree. I think that, I'm sad to say this, but I speak to you more than I think I speak to my own sisters. But that being said, with some of the work that you've unpacked here, I've actually started to lean in a little bit more with those relationships. So I'm happy to say that maybe their frequency is a little bit better than yours right now because I know how busy you are.
Beautiful. Okay. So I recently asked you to have a look at, the good men helping good men framework and do the questionnaires. And, I think I know it was pretty eye opening for you. It is for everybody, especially when you ask them, the people who go on it initially, where are you now and where do you get to? That's powerful. But when I ask people to look at their lowest point and then where they are today, and then kind of what I always describe is, I think life's like um, artistry. It's like I call it like the artistry of humanity. You pull a thread. People sit in an emotion here, but like you pull that thread, and it's succours from down there, right? And I'm really interested to for people to understand. Okay, why? Where was I? How did I get here? And how can I continue this kind of artistry journey using these skills? Because I think people get tied up in the emotion, then they become that emotion, and then they look at the fight, and then they're almost at the mercy of the events around them, whether they're happy or not. And I don't think a lot of, especially men, they don't sit and really fucking get into the nuts and bolts and get deep to understand how they can help themselves moving forward. So with your scoring, like most people, your lowest was pretty low. I think overall 15%. When we look at your health and fitness pillar, zero. Internal work, zero. Love and relationships, zero. Social connections, 50%. And I'm not surprised. You're a fucking really personable guy, happy-go-lucky. Everyone loves being in your company. You've got a really good, energy. And I think that attracts people. I always say negativity repels and positivity attracts. And you definitely attract. And then work and life flow, 25%. And then obviously today from 15% to 68%. So obviously increases in all the way through. And your social connections went up again to 80%. No surprise there. So just unpick where give us a bit of a backstop to you. Feel free to stick in anything that maybe you think's a little bit deeper needs to be unpicked. But I'll ask some questions as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, appreciate you bringing me on this. And I over the last few years, I've really spent a lot of time introspectively assessing myself. Perhaps not to the structure that you've laid out here with those 20 questions. So I appreciate that, and I think that those pillars, good shout, because those are the ones that to me are the most important. And I over the last 4 or 5 years, probably I would say I had a very special experience with the proper Shaolin, and leading up to that, there was a lot of question and in curiosity and perhaps even a bit of fear. So it took 2 years to come to it, but the timing was right, the opportunity was perfect, and it was a truly special experience for me. But I was seeing really dark scores leading up to that, and then post that, it's been up and down, if you
So,
will.
so let's ask the
And
question
yeah,
around that then. So you just said you were like it sounds like 2 years in the depths of, if that was a really low score, and you obviously felt that, and because you touched on something there which I wasn't aware of. You went to a shaman, done maybe some plant medicine. Well, we'll unpick that. So for those 2 years when you're at your lowest, were you trying to find how the hell you can get yourself out of that? How did that feel?
No, we're just guys, man. We're gonna figure it out, right? We're just gonna jam that square peg into the round hole, and eventually it'll work. And I didn't need help. That was like, I'll figure this out. Like, what? Like, I don't need, like, oh, this is just gonna work itself out. Meanwhile, you see a hole in your wall on a Monday morning, you're wondering how the hell did that get there? Well,
Oh
the dog
yeah.
didn't do it, right? So, at a certain point, and by the way, I'm not fixed. I'm never going to be fixed. I'm certainly 68%. I would say that some days I'm 85 or 90%. But if you were to take the average over a course of maybe 100 weeks, I think that's a pretty spot on accuracy for me. So I look at it not as a one place, one point in time. I think it's a cyclical process in terms of the health journey that we're on, the mental health journey that we're all on. And it's like gardening. I garden, and every year there's a new year, there's a new cycle. You have an opportunity to plant your seeds, you care for the garden, you make adjustments based on the previous year's success and perhaps failure, based on maybe where the sun hit the plants and what seeds you use and so forth. And then you harvest, and it comes to you bear fruit, and you enjoy that, and then you start it all over again. And so if you just look at it as a one harvest per life opportunity, you're leaving so much behind. So I just think that it's been an accelerated journey that I've been on the last few years because of, I think, me coming to grips and saying I need some help. And I think I'm better for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting point. The thing what you're describing there is most men, it's that kind of stoic attitude that we have to have, and which is a great value that a lot of us kind of have. But when you're suffering, we really need to talk, and just that having a safe space to just to have a natter. And I know even with you, sometimes I think we haven't stayed as close enough. We're getting closer again now, but that distance, when you told me some of the issues you were going through, I was a bit pissed off with myself that I hadn't reached out, or we hadn't reached out and connected, because I know just talking, you don't have to fix anything, but that talking really helps, right?
We're 14 hours separated in time. We're 12,000 miles roughly, give or take. COVID obviously didn't help with us getting in touch in person. And frankly, life happens. So no sweat. And I think that this is why I think the work that you're putting in on this is truly important. I think this is going to make it a little bit more sustainable. I talk about scalability and sustainability in everything I do, whether it's on my business adventures or if it's personal. Sustainability. I'm not the guy that's going to go to the gym 7 days a week. It's just not sustainable for me. So I have to figure out a way to look this good. And it's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that, right? But it's sustainable. And so it's all about sustainability and scalability. And I love what you're doing here because this is definitely going to help.
Yeah, good. So you touched on, so you went to a shaman, which is, I've heard a lot of good stuff about people going down that pathway to really get into the nuts and bolts. And I suppose for somebody like yourself, I know you kind of, I would have classified you as a man's man. You get shit done, your life and soul, you play golf, you have a few scoops and whatnot. And I suppose that would have forced you to sit and listen and go deep, right? What did you get out of that kind of silence and listening to yourself? What did you get?
I don't know if it's something about me, but every time I go on a holiday, not every time, but the good people in my life that I've met have been on a holiday. I've never told you this story. I was on my way out to Salt Lake to go skiing. This was several years ago. Actually, our youngest is 12. She hadn't even been born yet. So we're going back more than 12 years before I met you. And I was on a plane. I was delayed a day due to a snowstorm. So I was on a different plane than I was even supposed to be on, sitting next to another person. There weren't assigned seats on this particular airline. So just random happenstance that I sit down. And as I was looking at looking at a ski report, the guy next to me noticed that I was looking at Steve. He was like, "Hey, you're going up to Salt Lake, obviously. You must be a ski." Yeah, yeah. And we just happened to hit it off. Long story short, he's my shaman. And he didn't know he was going to be a shaman at that point in his life either. But shit happened to him in his life, and he ended up going down to the Amazon for a couple of years and truly immersed himself and he has multiple degrees. He's a graduate at Brown University, one of the best Ivy League schools in the country, right? He's a very smart individual. He's a computer science brain, but a very spiritual individual. He's introduced me to all of the philosophical sort of mindset that I've adopted in the last few years, including even individuals. Alan Watts is an example who I've spent a lot of time listening to. So we were just on an airplane heading out west. He was going mountain biking. I was going skiing. Frankly, it was just pure luck that it happened. But fast forward 12 years or so, after he had really saved his own life through the work that he did down in the Amazon, he was after it for a couple of years, very much not forcing it, not selling it, just speaking to it. And he knew that I was open-minded enough, and he knew eventually I would come to. He just didn't know when. And my wife and daughter and kids were on a trip to Puerto Rico a couple of years ago, right before Christmas, and he was in town, and he was going to be in town for a couple of weeks, staying in our house actually for the holidays. I said, "Mike, tonight's the night." He's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "We're doing it tonight." He says, "Anytime you want, let me know." I said, "You said anytime I want." I said, "This is the perfect night. The kids are not home. We've got a great place to do it. My living room is just a wonderful place. We have a fireplace, just a very spiritual vibe in there." And it was set up perfectly. And I know for a fact it saved my life.
Wow. Wow. No, that's huge, right? That's pretty powerful. And even you just saying that there about that saved your life, I wasn't aware that, that those depths that you've got to. What of those, when I look at your rating, thank God you had those social connections. I know you like to play your golf and stuff, because I always see from the research I do, and when every one of them at 0, it's almost like people don't have that safety net. So I'm really glad that you had that safety net of the social connections. What was really affecting you the most out of those pillars? What do you think really was there anything that really got to you the most?
Yeah, for me, so I have the good scores up because I'm not looking back, I'm looking forward. But I would imagine if I look back, I've rated myself a 0 in internal work. Yeah, am I right on that?
Yes.
Just not to speak too much on it, but I think it's a really important inflection point in my life where, I had the experience. And the first thing I saw when I got into the medicine was a serpent. Two things I saw. A serpent came at me, closed his face. It was
Wow.
me. That just gave me chills, by the way. And by the way, during the experience, you don't know what the heck really, you're just
Yeah.
riding that wave. And it wasn't until days later, as we unpacked it together, what we were seeing. And I also saw a chessboard, and the pieces weren't chess pieces, they were people. And I was also seeing clocks, a lot of clocks, like digital clocks, like a scoreboard clock at a football match type of thing. So those three things were big for me. And it took a while for me to understand, but I was, often challenged with trying to manipulate a situation to position myself as a victim when truly I was the villain in my own story. And so I really had to look and really say, all right, what is that mirror telling me? And it's not a useful expenditure of energy to go and assign blame. It's more important to figure out how I can personally move forward. Not to say that there's shared blame, but why bother trying to force my agenda on somebody else before I don't even have myself sorted out, right? So that was a big takeaway for me.
No, beautiful. That's really powerful. And I did that with my partner, Katia, even last week. Again, I was mentioned to you before that I'm checking my own workbook on a regular basis, because I forget, because we all forget as humans. That's why I think the power of having an app that's at the fingertip to explain to you and take you on a pathway, what's happening here, and just take you through the steps will be so powerful. But I kind of sometimes I lack patience, and it's from certain things will happen, and I figured something out before, and because the pillars are so interconnected, I was talking about good men helping good men, and I was on a bit of a roll, and what we're going to do, and the app's going to do this, and we're really going to really help humanity. And I was on a roll, and she was trying to throw things in the mix that wasn't in my train of thought right there. So I'm like, yeah, just leave it. And I was short, and I was like, piss off over there a sec. I'll get back to you when I'm ready. But she was really trying to give some valuable insights from a beautiful perspective. And she's a beautiful, divine, feminine woman who's super intelligent, got so much to offer. And I was just going like that. And I was getting wound up. But now, because I'm digesting the information that I'm putting together so much, that, again, we're perfectly imperfect. I am nowhere near where I want to get to, but I'm checking myself more regularly and I'm pulling myself up quicker. So within about 60 seconds, because I've spoke to her about this before, I just sat to her and said, look, I'm really sorry about that. I lost my patience. I didn't really listen. What you were saying was valuable. It might not have been for this, but if for something else. And I think I realized where that trauma response comes from. I think the biggest trauma response for me of not being, I'm feeling I'm not being seen or heard because I'm talking and it's kind of trying to change direction. And I realized in my, I think I may have spoke to you in the past, in my work life in corporate, things came to a head when I was running a big logistics business and, managing director of that. And again, that CFO, he wasn't evolved, let's put it that way. And he used to hold the cards, the financial cards, and play games because he was playing the corporate ladder. He wanted everything for him to look great at everything. And I just wanted what was best for the business and the culture of the team and this to drive forward. And we used to come to this loggerhead all the time. And that type of thing would happen where I'd be talking and he'd be going up and throwing something else. And I can actually feel it in my here when I get that frustration and it tingles. It's almost like I haven't got rid of that trauma yet. But in the past, I would more so lash out. Whereas now I'm going, what's that? That's me. It's not that other person. So I've got to deal with that and just let it go. Yep. But in the past, I would look to blame the other person. And I think the thing you called out, it's the mirror. They're bringing it to your attention. Yeah. It's yours to deal with, right?
Listen, man, I'm so far from where I want to be and never going to get there. You have to embrace that reality. And with children, it's you don't have a mirror, you have multiple mirrors, and it's the highs are high, and when it's off, it really, you talk about clenching teeth. If I clenched teeth, I would have none left. Let's put it that way. So it's more my stomach, thankfully, that I can kind of address that sort of initial trigger and feel, because it's a challenge. But as my shaman, so I was up visiting him July, and we talked for hours about the mirror and how the people that I was struggling most with in my life, in particular my relationship with my wife, he's like, she's a mirror, and I'm like, fuck you.
100%.
But it's good. No, it's good. Yeah. That was definitely, that started that journey that I've been on the last few years, and I'm really, really thankful for it.
Okay, so that big moment you just said saved you. So where was your head? Let's get into the. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, just there we go. You're back. When you were at that, you were talking about, potentially save your life. And I think we've all been at those moments. I remember looking out on Coogee Beach, going through one of my messages, going, is this it? Like, is this it? On the surface, successful, this, that, and the other, but really struggling internally. How dark did it get for you? And what was...
I was going 120 miles an hour on a highway with nobody else on it, just looking for the right tree to put my vehicle into at about 1 o'clock in the morning after about 15 beers. Yeah, that was probably as dark as it was ever.
Wow.
Not only was I, risking my life, I was bringing the life of others into danger. But thankfully, by some, divine intervention, was going by an exit and said to myself, I probably should get off now. And I walked into my friend's house and broke down. And yeah, that was pretty dark. And that was, that was before the experience with the shaman, and that later, within that next 12 months is when I sat down and spent time with him, and obviously here I am. But yeah, it was work stress, it was family stress, the health and fitness was off, I wasn't necessarily, and I've talked to you, a bit about, but I haven't really unpacked how serious I am about officiating in college basketball. I was just picked up by a college designer this summer, so I tried out and achieved one of my major goals for 2024. And I didn't have that in my life yet. It was dark part of the year, so it was sort of winter, you know, and I really struggle with the effect that winter here in the Northeast. You talk about Narnia. It's dark, it's cold, it's snowy, it's just shit, to be honest with you, for
Yeah.
a solid 3 months. I want to know and talk about that because we're coming close to the end here. But now, with the work that I've done, with some of the tools that I've put in my life, and looking creatively to figure out how to work around the seasonal depression that I have, i.e., use the basketball and truly getting after it on a pretty much nightly basis. Not only does that help allow me to have a couple of scoops, not put the weight on, it keeps me fresh, it keeps me clear. Some of the best ideas come when I'm running back and forth on a basketball court. Probably don't want to tell my assigner that, but the fact is that you walk more off the court. Like after the game, you're more fresh. You think it's like a good workout, right? You get your best work. Your best ideas come when you're in the shower or you're working out.
Oh,
And
100%.
so it was a real pivot point for me, and I'm thankful and lucky to be alive and lucky to be here. And you know, obviously, there's enough outside force working against us on a daily basis. The last thing we need to do is work against ourselves, because if you're doing that, then it's just your days are numbered.
Look, I'm extremely glad you pulled off, because we would have lost one of the good ones. And I think through that, you're going to be able to help a lot of people with your story. And I think that's why, as we move forward, I would love to share more and what you've done to kind of come out of this. Because imagine your younger self. If your younger self had a framework such as this simple framework, which explains, hang on a minute, how are you feeling? And then giving you the tools. For me, I think we all have to go through a little bit of pain. That's where the lesson comes. But fuck, you don't have to go through the depths of the pain, probably we've all been through, right?
Mm. You almost, I think you and I both are living a very parallel path, if you will. And I think we did it on purpose. Like, all right, let's just see what are we going to, how much can my body take? And that's not the way that I would not guide my younger self through it. And frankly, I have my younger self, he's about 30 feet up above me. And I do ask myself, man, if I had the answers to the test, which I have a lot of those answers now, not because I know it all, but because I've experienced more than I did 25 years ago, I have these answers. How do you get those answers to your younger self in a way that is going to resonate and to stick? That's the challenge that I'm having. Frankly, to this point, I'm working on myself. I feel like I'm advancing. How do I help others?
That's a good point. That's a good point you bring out there, because, if you look at, we are in, the loneliness epidemic. The suicidality has gone through the roof. It's an unprecedented rate. And I think from the age of 15 to 25, suicide is the leading cause of death for our youngsters. So the young people coming into the world, they're fucking killing themselves. So it's broken, right? Society, isn't supporting and evolving as we should. Now, there's shitloads of reasons for that. There's the technology, everyone's stuck to the phone, and society, is making us very divisive, politically, religiously, everything under the sun. It feels like, that fear, fucking engine room is driving hard within humanity to keep us divided. So for the young people, what have they got, which is kind of reminding them back to who we are as human beings? It's exactly the opposite, right? The attention span's been shot, this, that, and the other. And that's why I've got a big belief in having to use technology to help, and having to really, and this is the framework around what we're doing here. And I'd be really interested if, I'd much rather than be scrolling on something that adds value and draws them back to their true self. How are you feeling? Oh, I'm feeling angry. Oh, okay, next level. Oh, is a boundary being crossed? Yes. Okay, well, this is something you can do to that. Next day, do you feel better today? No, I've got a different feeling. Okay, let's unpack that. So you're constantly kind of checking yourself, right? And for the young people who, they don't want to listen to dad, do they? They don't want to listen to one. They're too cool. They've got all the fucking answers. But there'll be people that will listen to them, and there might be people to look up to, and it'd be about that messaging. Because I'd be really interested, you just talk about your son, your younger mirror of you. How would he do with the framework? Would he even answer the questions? Because it's that thing of, oh, I'm too cool for that. But I think those simple questions make people go, oh, hang on a minute. And you know what I mean? So I'd be really interested to see, what do you think? You think he'd just say, piss off, Dad?
Well, if he's anything like his old man, he probably would tell me to piss off. I mean, listen, I had one of the smartest people that I know spend more than 2 years in the Amazon, living amongst a community of people that have practiced this, not for their lives, but as a colony for centuries, frankly. And it took me years to even step forward and say, "All right, I'll take one, please."
Free will, isn't it? It's a powerful thing.
Yeah, I think I was about 40 years old too. So at that point, you think that some of your stubbornness is worn off, and obviously, listen, there's some fear when obviously you're going into, we did ayahuasca, and we obviously we plant-based, but still uncontrolled to a point, and so there was some nervousness to it, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't have to be that. It could be something a little less, intense, if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
will.
Well, yeah. I'm reading the Joe Dispenza book, and I'm a big believer in the things that you can achieve in plant medicine, you can achieve in the natural state. And I do breath work every day. There's a guy called Sandy Breathwork. His voice really resonates with me. It calms me. I quite enjoy it. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Some voices piss you off and kind of get you a bit agitated, but his voice really soft. It works for me, and I find myself almost in these kind of I'm vibrating. I do this 30-minute one, and I'm just like find myself in this complete state of peace. And Joe Dispenza, because he's scientifically reading this book called The Supernatural, I think, or something like that, Becoming Supernatural, and he describes the science. He describes how the quantum works, how your thought is a frequency. And I'm like, you don't actually plant medicine, great, and I think that helps so many people who are at the wit's end. But I think as part of the education and people understanding what humanity is, they don't even understand that we as humans have the breath to fucking help us to get into these states, which calm us down and get rid of all the fog, because we're surrounded by fog. We've got thoughts, feelings. A lot of it's a load of shit because it's in the past, but we sit in that, and that's the fog. So we never come back to our true self. When I sit there in meditation or deep breath work followed by meditation, I'm just at fucking peace. And I'll find sometimes, just near the end, some little messages will come through to me like, boom, and it's like an idea, and all the shit's got out of the way, and I think, that's pretty powerful. So we have this available to us in abundance because it's just fucking us, right? But people don't understand this. People just run around a million miles an hour, don't think, and they say, oh, I'm too busy to do this thing. You're too busy to connect to yourself. You're actually running away from yourself. And then people, I always say that most people are running a million miles away from their authentic self, who's just running behind them going, I'm here.
Yeah.
You're on the piss. You're fucking doing this. I'm going to be in this corporate job. I'm stuck in this relationship, which is I did. I'm stuck in a relationship, doing a fucking job. Knew the relationship wasn't right, but I'd tell myself, I'm too busy right now. I'll deal with that next year. So I'm just running away. I'm running away from myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. My father actually gave me this. You won't be able to read it, but it's a circle, and if you could see what it says at the top.
No, go on, tell it. What does it say?
It's around to it. Around to it. So I'll get to it when I get around to it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a cheeky little play on words, but yeah, we all have that mindset. We'll get it. And it was a bit of a poem about around to it. You get around to it, and so. But yeah, no, we all have that same mindset, especially when the going gets tough, right? And kind of hunker down, and you don't really move a lot. You don't start moving the big blocks around like you are obviously now. So yeah, and I think it speaks to the vast majority, and men, women alike. I think you call it the core part of our population, the 25 to 65-year-old sort of demographic, the ones that are contributing to global GDP, right? I would say more than 80% are struggling with something or other. And those that address that and start moving the blocks around will be the most successful. Those that are like, I'll do it when I get around to it. Those are the ones that You see 5 years later, you go back and do a 25-year reunion, a 30-year reunion. They're still the same people. In fact, they're just, you're surprised they're there because you're just actually, they didn't have a heart attack, or they haven't, fallen to a point where they wouldn't show up to an event like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe that the vast majority of people suffer. Unless you're kind of, really spiritual or just super happy, you figured out, I think life has a success equation. If you figured out that equation, fucking great. But most people are suffering at sometimes daily, weekly, to different depths. And the question is, do we need to suffer this much? And I believe no. And I believe there's pain that we all need to learn. That's the duality of life, and that's the artistry of humanity. You pull the thread, there's the ups, the downs, we learn, we grow, great. And that's kind of whatever we call it, the creator, the universe, God, whatever. The greatest artist of them all is what I always say, and we are that art form. We draw art, we speak art. It is what it is, right? And I believe that, I don't know about you, if everybody had this framework in front of them, and that's why I'm so passionate about bringing this to life, it'll just take them down the path. They still have to do the work. Some people won't. They'll experience pain. And it's almost like, but when you get to that point of you've had enough pain, at least the pathways are in front of you. Instead of hearing a million one podcasts from beautiful people trying to do the right thing and books all over the place, just have it funneled. What are you feeling? Bang, bang, bang. So I just believe that so many people, there's too many people fucking suffering. It's getting worse. Technology makes it worse. We're so disconnected, and I just look at these simple pillars, on the social connections. I was amazed that I think men over 30, the majority are saying they haven't got one best friend that they can rely upon. Fuck, one best friend. We used to be tribes. We used to connect it, brotherhood, go out, with the spears and hunting and gathering together. It's gone. It's gone. People don't talk to the neighbours. So that loneliness epidemic, which you think that can be the final straw for people, because when they're at rock bottom, like for you, we were at rock bottom, you were considering it, which is fucking unbelievable. You had a friend to go to, right? Some people don't even have that, right? A true friend. So I just believe, I don't know about you, I don't think we need to suffer that much. And I think it's simplistic in what we need to do. Hence these questions, they're quite simplistic. But it's how en masse do we get that through to people? And that's why I'm so passionate about doing this, because I think it's not actually as hard to improve. I'm not saying we're perfect. We're all perfectly imperfect. As you said, you've got a guy sitting in front of you saying, fucking hell, I can help you. And it takes you a year or two to even go, you go on to help me, right? But if you've got a population in the billions and we can help 1% of that 1% turns on, which is quite reasonable. Fuck, all of a sudden, en masse, what do? Everything improves. If we've got children who are birthed in this earth at the moment, once they come through, if there's a humanity education stream that explains to them from kindergarten when this happens, when Kevin pisses you off and tells you off for not eating your food, hey, well, it might mean this, just understanding what humans are and emotions, which doesn't happen. You're at the mercy of what's the school telling you? What's the parents telling you? Well, guess what? When you pull that thread, that human being the parent is programmed from a thread over here. And it might not necessarily, and you just carry this thread, just pulls, and you just pull it all the way through, bang. And until somebody tackles that, because then you talk about ancestral traumas and stuff like that. Effective, it's just thread. And if no one tackles that shit, it's just going to continue on and on and on. Yeah. And usually what I believe is it takes someone with that emotional intelligence and that self-awareness to fucking sit there, probably like what you're doing now. And what I done, I go through that much pain that I go, fuck this. I've got to tackle this for me and for others. And, full stop. Let's stop operating like this,
Yeah, absolutely. Michael, who's a good close friend of mine, dear friend and a shaman, and he's just been he's been great. I'm actually looking forward to getting together with him in the next week or two. But he explained to me there was a study done with, I believe, deer, and he was saying that they cordoned off a part of the farm with an electric fence, and they had deer raised, and there was new baby deer born and generations. They took the fence down, but the baby deer that never was alive for the fence were still not going anywhere because they were programmed by the previous. So that speaks to what you're saying. So. And if you don't believe that is true, that's a whole other challenge that you're gonna have to unpack some other point down the road. But those that do understand that, I think, have a very big leg up on others that
Yeah,
don't.
100%. And I think what you describe is kind of the prisoner of your own mind, right? You're the prisoner of
Yeah.
your mind, of thoughts and feelings and how you've been programmed. And again, I go back to, I think people learn differently, and there's so many stuff out there, but it's not funneled correctly. And I think what we need to do as people who are trying to help is think of a way to simplify it to hit the masses. Certain people learn differently. I think on mass people learn more like this, talking, seeing visually than reading books. You know, of the research I've been doing, it's really low, the percentage of people who will read books and read books for a structure for growth, of improvements. I really like to do it. I never did. It was only recently a good friend of mine, Martin, said, fucking start reading books. It adds so much value to your life. And he said it to me about 6 months it was, just like you. And I'm going, oh, no, I'm going to read a book. And then I read a book and I'm sitting there and I'm going, this is fucking great. And all of a sudden, remember I said to you, I read books now, Kevin.
Do they have pictures? I think I asked if I think that's what I asked you. How many pictures? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's blown my mind because every morning now it's part of my ritual. I sit there with Katya. We both read a book. We have a coffee. Music's on. It's then, and then I'll find things within it. I did it, one of the first ones, that Joe Dispenza, and I was so amazed. I tried to read it years ago, and I wasn't ready to digest it. I was on the audiobook, and I go, this is woo-woo, load of thick, can't. But as you evolve and grow, I was like, fuck, every word was making sense. I was going, that makes sense. How powerful is that? And I can see I'm seeing that he's trying to do this thing that we're talking about as a lot of, he's like, I really want to help. How do we capture all of these people en masse to really help? And that's what I was like, really kind of inspired me. But yeah, I read, and me and my missus will sit there and we'll almost kind of say, I'll get a paragraph and I go, how about this? And she'll go, give us a sec. And then I'll unload it. And then she'll say to me, got this one. And then we're in the morning talking and it's just leveling us up, improving our consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful experience.
It really is. In the first person that cuts you off in the morning, which is probably within, 2 kilometers from your home, normally that would put you into like this fall, and now you're like, and you're like, and it's gone. You like, learn how to drive, man. And then then you carry on, you go about your day. So you're starting your day in a healthier mindset. And I think, my boss gave me the Muse. I don't know if you heard it. It's a bit of a technology that measures brain waves, and it links up with an app that also provides you meditation, either sounds, music, or some in some cases talking. So it's really good. Speaks to exactly what you're doing. I don't do it, truth be told, on a daily basis. I should. It's on my desk. I look at it every morning because sometimes I come downstairs and, fire up the computer and I go right into it. Like,
Yeah, mate, I do that kind of twice a week because my high performance zone, believe it or not, is like 3-4 a.m. So I get up and I go, right, nothing, no meditation, not just get after it, because that's when I'm kind of in the biggest flow. So it allows me to be creative, and that's when I'm doing my creative stuff. And then the other days I get up, I chill, coffee, talk, and I'm trying to read, but I might only get through 5 pages in the morning because we just start chatting about the book or about some other stuff. So
Mate,
I'm kind of,
if you and I were roommates, we would never finish a book.
exactly. Yeah, we would definitely digress. And again, if you think about us in the time that we've known here, was it 2013 that we met?
Yeah,
it was 2013.
we definitely,
You think
again, I kind of use Emerson as a measurement stick too a lot, because in my life, there's pre-Emmy, there's post-Emmy, and I don't believe Emerson, if she was alive, she was barely a baby. So yeah,
I think so.
She wasn't alive. So
yeah,
10, 11, 2013.
Yeah, I think it was 2013 because I remember, because obviously that was the year I got married.
There you go.
I lasted a massive 18 months with that. I definitely didn't have my loving relationships. There was no kind of, when I came into that relationship, I definitely didn't understand my non-negotiable values, and I definitely didn't have that discussion there. That's another story. But if you think about us two, how we talk to each other now, how different it is from where we were. I remember getting off and, I would talk to you on the phone, pissed as, I'd be going late, partying like an animal. You'd start early so we could talk to each other pissed, and we'd stay on the phone for hours and just get, arsehole. And or even now, you look at, if you pull that thread of both of us, there's the Kevin thread, the Ian thread, and you look at that life, it's like, fuck, look at that. But it's like an art form, right? That story that's developing, because it's going to continue now. Where does it go?
Yeah. And I don't know how we're doing on time, but two things. One, that you, because I probably should wrap up here in the next 10
Yeah.
or 15.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier and sort of describing good men, helping good men is reach one, teach one. And I like that. That resonated. That stuck with me. And then you also talked about how, how do you learn? And certain people learn through reading. Some people learn through doing. A lot of people learn through doing. But in fact, I had a professional coach a couple of years back who had a really nifty sort of saying, and he said, "If one teaches, two learns." In other words, the person that is teaching is also learning. So I do think that the reach one, teach one mantra that you've developed is really going to be powerful because, to your point, 10 years ago, yeah, we were pretty evolved. We were pretty successful people. Yeah, we got on the piss and things, we do, if we get together, when we get together in the next few months, hopefully it'll look different than we did 11 years ago. But still, we were pretty evolved people back then. But so much different now. And so
So
the
much
fact of the
different.
matter is we're still learning, and we're going to accelerate our personal learning through the work that, the framework that you're developing, which I'm really excited about.
No, 100%. And I think that is the powerful thing. The questions that are huge to kind of turn the light bulb on. Then we've got the framework to help you walk the path. So all these things, all these podcasts coming on, people get ignited, then they go back in the job. They've got no pathway. So we're trying to give that pathway. And that reach one, teach one, it's almost like that AA approach, right? Same with AA. Again, if you're teaching someone, you're growing, they're growing, you're holding yourself accountable because you're telling it. When you say that, you're like, oh, that resonates and sticks in you, and you feel like I'm part of this now. And that's why, I see within the app like a profile, Kevin, Boston, or wherever you live, and this age, in this geofence, this is what I'm about, and you're kind of, I'm okay, I'm pretty strong in this work and life flow, this is me, I'm happy to have a chat and help anybody. And then somebody might look at your profile and go, I'm in the same area, let's chat, and you put yourself accessible to chat. How powerful is that when you're at your lowest moment, or even when you're struggling to make connections? Because I always say the loneliness phase of growth is a must. It's a must. You're not growing unless everybody grows with you, unless you don't experience some kind of loneliness. It's actually, you should cheer it on because you go, okay, I'm growing. Because you'll find that people that you used to, hang around with, party, take drugs, do whatever, when you grow, the majority of them aren't going to come with you. So it's going to have that loneliness phase. And I had a period of time, I was speaking on another podcast recently, where I hit rock bottom. I was on the piss with an idiot. I was having a drink. I was out. I was trying to pull chicks. It was soulless. I knew it wasn't me anymore because I come out of a relationship. And I just pulled the pin, come home, broke down, sobbing on the floor, going, what the hell am I doing? This is just no good. Shouldn't be interacting with these people. What am I doing drinking? It's 2 a.m. I'm in this club. It's all dark, 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 dark. There's nothing for me here anymore. I've done this. And I was sobbing on the floor, let it all out. And I was like, I'm going like, I'm lonely. I'm fucking talking it and letting it all out. Tears like I've never had before. And I was like, right, I've done that now. Okay, what's next? And then I realized, well, for me to do what I've got to do, they're not going to come. With love, if they do come, fantastic. But my journey now needs to kick. And then it took me a long time to just stumble across my kind of tribe, for want of a better word. And now I'm so much happier. I've got people that I can relate to. I don't drink anymore. I can have deep, meaningful conversation, which I enjoy. You know what I mean? Some conversations I speak, they look at me and go, yo, woo, woo. It's okay. They're on their journey. I give that love. But where you are, you have to go on that journey. And I think what you've just touched on there, that reach one, teach one, opens up the door for people to have that transition easier, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And again, we're just a lucky few that are still alive, right? I mean, there's so many more people that have gotten jammed up in it, either taken their own life or just never were able to pull themselves out of that sort of stall that they found themselves in that, was unrecoverable. And so they're not going to get nearly out of life what you would get out of life due to the work that you're putting in. So yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, my brother, I think we had a decent chat there, plenty to go through.
Yeah.
I think we'll make this a more regular occurrence, my friend, and I'm really glad you're You've definitely, you're on the 68% average now, which means you're in a much better place from those dark days. And you had probably similar backstory to me, similar kind of position of where you are today. And I think for everybody, it's just realizing we're perfectly imperfect. But when you are having those down days, there's an equation to help you. And,
Yeah.
humanity needs to understand what that equation is. And if you just take those steps on a daily basis, it's going to keep you more fulfilled and not let the world kind of engulf you, right?
Take it one day at a time, right? Don't try to tackle the world on and focus so much on the macro or the big goal that you have, because type A people, those that are drivers that we are, struggle. Just take it one day at a time. And whether it's 16% or 68% or anywhere in between, or, hopefully above on your good days, it's a day and you're going to reset and refresh and tackle a new one tomorrow.
Yeah, and then I think we'll wrap up. I'll leave this one here. I was reading one of the books I'm reading at the moment. I think it's called Awake. And one of the questions it asks you is, if you ask yourself, now, again, I probably wouldn't have been able to receive this years ago. I was like, what does that mean? Whereas today it makes sense. It said, if you ask yourself, what are you lacking right at this second, right now? And you kind of go, oh, no, right now. And you get to that actual point. You can never lack anything because you're only here now. You can't grab anything. You can't pick up a Rolls Royce. You can't pick up anything. There's nothing from a consumeristic, materialistic thing that you can grab. The past is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. The future hasn't happened. So there's only this little element that you look at, and when you look at it like that, you go, fucking nothing, and there can never be nothing that you're lacking. And
Yeah.
and I think does that make sense to you now? It makes
Absolutely. It's all about abundance. Think with the mindset around abundance rather than scarcity. And if you can do that and take it one day at a time, you'll be in a better place. And we're far from perfect, and we've got a long way to go before we even celebrate our next milestone. But with that mindset, we can get through days a lot easier. That's absolutely true. So yeah, I love it. Good spot to
okay,
land.
my brother. Great chat. I'll leave that one there, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Cheers.